25 years in TV, and someplace in the 1990s, I started reading some stuff that said, maybe this isn't the most healthy of professions to be in spite of everyone building themselves up and saying how great they are. Um, and, and yeah, and so I had a slow turnaround sometime shortly after I worked on the Dr. Phil show, and I was actually working on something that was quite gratifying after that, although it was mismanaged and didn't see the light of day. But I just
You're on
said,
the Arsenio Hall show too, right?
that's right. That's
What
right.
a legend.
Yeah, I'm glad someone remembers him.
Yeah, totally. I mean, he's one of the greatest stand-up comics and interview
Yeah.
hosts, and he totally changed the game. Yeah.
Yeah, he was the first African American late night talk show host. Came on the air in 1989, I think. So anyway, so are we recording this yet, or
Yeah,
We are
when do we
rolling
start?
already.
This is
We're
called
rolling.
a cold open. Yeah,
Good.
exactly.
Good.
Ladies and
Okay.
gentlemen, welcome Ken Weishaus. Stop Breaking Down, his new book. Ken Weishaus.
KentW.net, the website you can find it at.
Excellent. And then, as Ken says, he's been in the film industry for 2.5 decades, and then he pivoted and decided to help people.
Yeah.
With their mental health and swimming through this world, right now we're so overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed, honestly, with all the news that goes on.
Yeah.
And part of me wants to be like informed and aware, but part of me just wants to not be that.
Well, it's a real fine line, isn't it? Yeah, we can easily be overwhelmed with what's out there just because it's so available, as Daniel Kahneman would say. It's the availability heuristic. You don't have to do anything to just flip on your phone and see someone being beaten up, stabbed, bombed, car accidents, car chases, instantly available, and or on TV, and so these things are all real. I certainly don't want to deny them, and the world is a dangerous place in certain places, but by and large, when you access it repeatedly all day long, it's really easy to feel like it's unsafe everywhere, and this can affect your functioning. So
that's how I feel.
Yeah.
Said, you want to share a little bit? I don't know. I feel like the news, me and Said are from Lebanon, with all the intense news that's coming out of that area. Part of me wants to be aware of what's happening back home, and sympathize with my friends and family that are back home. But then I feel like I'm getting kind of traumatized too, and I want to be mentally strong.
Yeah.
But I want to be aware.
Yeah, how do you avoid the overwhelm? Well, how do you keep a balance? I'll ask you guys that. How do you do it?
Shall I go for it? Okay.
Yes.
For me, it's been basically trying to separate the emotional aspect of it all, and differentiate, just like, because this is not something I am new to. I've already been hearing this news. I've already been seeing it for a long time. So obviously, when you first experience it, you get this rush of emotions, and you want to react. That's the initial response. Over time, you start learning more, informing yourself, educating yourself about the whole narrative, and then you become more experienced about how to process the information, because this is not something new. This is not something that is very different from what has already happened in the past. If you just look up at history, it's the same events happening, but over time it's just been escalating. It's basically an inflation of historical events. Things are just escalating even more and more every year. So once you come to terms with that and you see it again, I know I'm sounding very maybe I don't have empathy with the whole situation. Quite the opposite.
No, it doesn't sound like that to me.
Yeah, it's but you just reach that point where you're like, okay, there's no point for me to get angry or upset. The the best thing to do is to help whoever I can in the moment, and also just like take action, because people like to talk a lot and mention stuff about it, about the situation, like on social media and stuff. That's good. It applies pressure. Um, but action speaks louder than words, and that's not like it's a cringy comment to say, but it's true. You got to do something instead of just speak, because we've been speaking about it for so long and nothing has changed. So unless an actions are actually done, then nothing's gonna change.
Yeah, it's interesting how we're getting into what I see is it's very, at least how it's being presented, is very polarized. Like
Mm-hmm.
the idea that 100 different systems or 1,000 different systems have come to play, um, and that people are behaving. You know, I watched your last podcast. The guy who was saying that I'll interpret what he said. The rigid beliefs that we are capable of really rigid belief systems that are immovable, and unfortunately, you've got
Mm-hmm.
extremists leading both sides that are immovable,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and so this is the crap that comes to happen, with thousands of people being killed, um, and we get trapped in our narrative. So, say that, doing something about it is certainly important. I think it's really important to not say either you're with me or against me. Like
Mm-hmm.
to understand the nuance that went into everything that's come down. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's so funny. I was just in Slovakia a couple of weeks
Mm-hmm.
ago, and talked to a guy there who said, in my lifetime, he's 40 years old. In my lifetime, this has been three different nations. The land we're standing on has been three different nations. In my
Wow.
father's lifetime, it had been five different nations. He
Wow.
said, the politicians come in, the leaders come in,
Mm-hmm.
think they have some rock hard belief system that can steer things the right way. And we
Yeah.
pick up the pieces and make it work, you know? And so I don't know,
Wow.
the people, many of the people in charge, or at least leading the charge, are
Mm-hmm.
governed by rock hard belief systems that are not helping anyone.
That's the issue. It's when you place people who have sorry. So the thing is with like, for example, certain prime ministers and presidents in power that have these rock hard beliefs that you're talking about, they tend to have a certain ego as well, where they the decisions they make are basically the ones that they believe are unshakable, and
Yeah, they know as
there's
a
no doubt.
fact.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
no doubt about them.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even There's no way that they can take anyone else's
Mm-hmm.
perspective. It is only their side, and that is that is what's true for them. And this is a very negative aspect to have, because at the same time they tend to be pretty charismatic people. They're
Yeah.
aggressive. Yeah, they're aggressive in the debates, which gains them a lot of votes. And because they're aggressive, they also have a certain
Bless you.
sorry, I was eating popcorn earlier, so so this aggression kind of comes off as a level of charisma, but in reality, it's not. It's actually just blindsided, uh, like wild thoughts being shared, and just but they've also practiced articulation, so this helps them. It's
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
like they focus their thoughts and they sound like what they're saying is correct, so they get into they get into these positions, which is not good for the people.
Well, and we as the people are craving some structure, some belief system, some narrative,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
some A caused B narrative. And unfortunately, life is never like that. A is caused by 1,000 B's, and it's just not that simple. Yet we desire it to be. We're meaning making, storytelling creatures,
Right.
and so, oh,
Yeah,
there's a good story. I'm going to latch onto that and go with that, right?
exactly.
Until suddenly, either you're running out of food or bombs are raining down on you,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
Working
distressing.
for something that you're pointing out is that people latch onto stories, which is very true. They like the drama. They like to hear. I'm not kidding, man. People just love drama, and they like a good story to watch. And I'm pretty sure you've seen that working in TV for so long.
Oh
So,
yeah.
what do you think is like the most common emotion that people enjoy feeling or experiencing while watching TV?
Oh, good question. There's some kind of, I don't know if you can boil it down to one emotion, but some kind of amped up thing.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
I see. One I've said this a few different forums. I gravitated towards tabloid television in the
Okay.
1990s, and it's something I regret now. But regardless, uh, it's regardless. I got to be pretty good at it, and then I took skills that I picked up there and applied it in other areas. Just being a promotions creator producer, I'd be able to cut 30-second teases for stuff and with the idea of getting the most outrageous line, the most outrageous shots, and just show it, and
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
um, and so that amped up feeling that you get from that, um, whether it's a somebody cheating on somebody, a celebrity acting badly, uh, and or a horrific accident. You know, you're going to play the clip. You're going to play the sound bite over and over and over. Get people looking at it. So it's like you're drawn to it. It's like, and it's amped up. I think there's a desire to feel amped up, which it's probably if you want that amped up feeling, I would strongly recommend you take 5 steps back and come to understand why you're going after that and see if there's some other way to do it, like bungee
Yeah.
jumping, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Or, rather than getting amped up with stories, it's a visceral sensation when we get involved in these things. Our
Totally.
guts twist, our
Mm-hmm.
chest constricts, we're breathing fast, and we're going, and and um, and so pay attention to what's viscerally happening and informing you,
Yeah.
um, because it might be better to have a more pure cognitive experience if possible, to just step back and say, wait a minute, why am I feeling this way? Why is my viscera behaving this way? What do I want to do about it? How can I gaining distance from your thoughts, gaining distance from your stories, from your narratives, is a big thing I'm hammering on in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, to step back from them, and if you're desirous of some amped up feeling, okay, that's a coping mechanism for something or other, but go do it
Hmm.
in a way that's not necessarily storytelling.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that because I've heard of that context of like dopamine
Yeah,
increases, and I've heard that in like for addiction,
that's right,
and
dopamine
like
or
physical
adrenaline, right,
substances.
right.
Yeah, totally. But I've never heard of it in terms of stories like that. That stories themselves give you that kind of rewarding feeling, and but also that you want to always amp it up and take it to the next level and try to have more maybe intense stories and
Yeah,
drama
well,
and
I don't know. I'm not a neurologist. I'm not a
hmm
psychiatrist. I'm a licensed
hmm
clinical social worker.
hmm
But my understanding is that if you watch something that's a pleasing story that
Mm-hmm.
fills in the blanks for you, that makes things make sense, it does increase a sense of well-being or a sense of uh, feeling good, right? I mean, if
Mm-hmm.
you watch a movie that you like, you tend to come away sort of feeling good, right? I would suspect that's a dopamine thing.
That's interesting, and I feel like that's, if you watch reality TV and how it's shaped, like you see how more intense it gets. Like you start off with something like The Bachelor, which is like a simple dating show,
Right.
and then you take it to its next level. When you have like Big Brother, you have a bunch of people in a room, and now they're arguing, and there's more drama. They're just intensifying that same feeling that you get from watching like a simple reality TV, but now they want more. So they can get the views,
Yeah.
and you see that all over the internet too, on YouTube and
Yeah,
social media.
Hmm.
I mean, influencers, are
Right.
engaging in a lot of that stuff. Yeah, it's so funny. As my belief system in television was crumbling, I was working on the show called Paradise Hotel, which was which was about couples put together in a resort that were sleeping together and who's going to get kicked out of the resort. And it's like, really? so, yeah. The thing is that these things pay well, and so
Totally. They get views.
and when you're paid well, you have a cultural umbrella raining down on you that says, "Well, you're being paid well, must be meaningful and worthwhile." And
Yeah.
so it's hard to step away from an industry that does reward you financially, but it's like, shouldn't there be a prerequisite that everyone go through human relations 101 before they start
Hmm.
becoming huge influencers to millions of people with their programming?
Wow.
Um, uh, that's kind of what my takeaway from it. It's like,
Hmm.
So do you
pay
think?
attention. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to ask about. So this is something I've been paying attention to, which is the difference between being like financially rich and being rich in fame, which is through relationships. Um, so the one where you're making a lot of money, it's usually when you just give people what they want, but not what they need. And it's usually in any industry, it's just probably low quality like produce, or you know something that's not really healthy for the individual.
Can you give an example of what you're trying to say?
So for example, let's say, and for food,
Hmm.
when you want to, like, Coca-Cola and Pepsi, soft drinks, like they, for example, they, let's say they advertise diet Pepsi or diet Coke. It's not healthy. It's still not
Hmm.
healthy,
Yeah.
but they sell millions, billions of it,
Hmm.
in the year. So, and these are like the biggest brands. If you look at all the biggest food brands, it's most of their stuff is junk for your body. Like when we look at it, also in entertainment, I feel like some of the richest entertainment industries are the ones that just, for example, the example you were just giving about reality TV. I mean, if I watched when I watch the Kardashians, it's a
Yeah.
very successful reality show, but I'm not gaining anything from it, man.
Oh.
Like I'm not
So,
gonna, I don't
uh,
watch that stuff.
what you said has been bouncing around my mind for some months now.
Yeah,
It's identical. So it's identical
exactly.
to selling a sugary soft drink in plastic containers, right?
Right?
In the moment, oh wow, that tastes good, that feels good, but you're getting diabetes. It's shortening your life. The plastic's going to degrade and join the huge plastic island in the middle of the Pacific,
100%.
then leach into marine life, where it's going to come down to the food chain and affect our ability to procreate or our ability to digest
Hmm.
foods. We have the, the abstract thinking capabilities that our species is capable of,
Yeah.
which includes thinking about the future, ruminating about the past, focusing on something and creating something new, being able to collaborate with each other, to
Mm-hmm.
say, hey, let's build a skyscraper over there, and we all get together and do it.
Yeah.
Uh, that 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 ability is a tremendous blessing. In one way, it's allowed us to take over the planet for better or worse, but it's got a very dark downside, which is we create these things and we share them, and then I like my plastic covered Coca-Cola. I don't want to think about anything else. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to keep drinking it. I like
Mm-hmm.
my Kardashians. I'm going to keep watching it. I'm not going to think about the long-term effects of this, right? What it's doing to me mentally, what it's
Yeah.
going to do to me physically. And if it's a blessing and a curse, the abstract thinking, because we do have the ability to step back from our thoughts. We have the ability to step back. It just takes more cognitive energy to step back. Oh, wait a minute. I like Coca-Cola. Maybe I shouldn't be drinking it this much, and maybe there's a better delivery mechanism for it that won't harm the planet. Um, uh, Maybe there's something else I could be working on rather than the Kardashians that might promote a good feeling without creating jealousy or amped up feelings that ultimately lead. The Kardashians and other programs like that they're like smoke and mirrors. Okay,
Yeah.
it's like they're saying, "Look at this important event right here that's happening," and we're not paying attention to the truly important stuff, which is over here. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Uh,
and
do you mind if I
that,
added something to the original
yeah,
point?
yeah.
I wanted to continue, and I was saying the difference between being rich and being famous. So for the people who like when that they focus on fame, usually they become famous because of how the impact they leave on people's lives, on other people's lives. So people tend to remember them more, and that's how they become famous. Now, to elevate their fame, they nowadays you do it through TV, through social media, through whatever means of whatever means available. Obviously, in the past, it used to be just like TV, radio. Now, TV and radio is still there, but we have much more quicker, much more ex- exposing platforms like YouTube, social media, Instagram, all of the above, and they like these people don't tend to be rich, you know. Like the ones who do become rich are the ones who find a way to leverage their platforms. So they don't actually end up making money because they're famous. They make money because they're using their platform in other aspects.
Hmm.
So they get probably paid even by
They get
other,
endorsements.
but
Yeah, they.
yeah, they get
Yeah,
endorsements. So like the people who have money are paying them in the end.
right, right. Well, so
Like, what's the
this
difference between these two aspects? Like, in your opinion?
be financially rich and fame and being just famous. It's funny. I haven't given that much thought to that question. I've given a lot of thought to the idea that we all agree upon that somebody can be financially rich. This again comes down to our ability for abstract thinking that we all agree that wealth exists,
Mm-hmm.
and
Oh
one
yeah,
person can hold 1,000 times more wealth than another. That's just a fiction. I mean, there's nothing in nature that says that's true. It's all of us agreeing on it, right? And what is real wealth? Well, 999 out of 1,000 people would say, "Oh, it's not having a lot of money. It's having a lot of stuff," right? Again, I'll tell you, I was just traveling in Eastern Europe, and it just occurred to me, I was on a semi-budget thing going through. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm wealthy. This is wealth. This is
Yeah,
real wealth. I'm
totally.
exposed to Roman ruins and great art in museums and meeting new people and being along the Danube River. It's like, this is enriching me. I'm rich with this, right? That's what real wealth is. And I wish, again, stepping back from our thoughts and our beliefs that financial wealth can exist, we might be able to see where real wealth there are opportunities for it. So as far as that's a kind of a deflection of your question, but the idea of being famous, I don't know. In my former business, I came upon a lot of people that wanted to be famous, I guess, and that's I feel that from time to time myself. It's funny. I've got different parts of me. One part that says, "Oh, come on, you want to have your face out there. You want to be recognized. You want to be a leader." Another part of me says, "Fuck that. Just go do your own thing." Go seek wealth in other ways, that in more authentic ways.
Kent, you sound like you're more leaning towards being a balanced individual. So
Yeah.
obviously there's the extremes of the people who are just rich, and then there's the people who are just famous, and then there's the people who come in the middle, who just want, to enjoy life, just not go insane and go on the extremes and just have millions of people just like attacking them, and it's like, yo, I want your autograph, but then feel lonely after, and also just being so rich that you might be financially safe, but at the same time you have all the risks revolving around your head and all the responsibility on your back and on your shoulders, and just stressing you out all the time.
Right.
Most of us just want to be able to properly rationalize what's going on and process the things in our lives and just enjoy it, man, because like it's not a long life. We want to enjoy what we can do, what we have, what we like. If we go on the extremes, we are basically just slow. I would say we're probably accelerating our death.
Yeah. That it's ultimately unhealthy, whether it's psychologically or physically. That we have a chance to be here on this blue-green planet for X number of years. How can we make the most of that in terms of our own authentic wealth, not financial wealth, but authentic wealth? And we're capable of pretty much having everyone on the planet in a middle class lifestyle, but that at this point our beliefs keep that from happening. Okay.
Yeah.
No, we believe that 0.01% of the population can have most of the wealth on the planet, and not only do we believe it, but the way we cope with that belief is we think they deserve it. Oh, these people with wealth deserve it. That's just a coping mechanism in my opinion, to help feel better about why is there such disparity? Why are there people living on the street a few blocks away, and I know that people have so much wealth that they could have 100 generations of people could be wealthy. So it's like,
yeah, totally.
wow.
And also, so going on that, Kent, you were saying, why do they deserve it? So you worked with a lot of famous people as well. Do you think they deserve to be famous?
Some of them were truly gifted and talented in what they did. Look, if you're able to entertain people in a relatively healthy manner, more healthy than not, why not? I mean, if we look at just recent history, you guys were talking a moment ago about the radio and television being influencers before social media, and it was just a little over 100 years ago where it wasn't radio and television; it was theater, politics, and people getting together, reading newspapers. That's how ideas were spread, Or you went to the theater, or you read about the president through the newspaper a week later, So now I've gotten off on a different track here, but
focus, Kent. Focus.
Come on. Focus. the idea that we're able to handle this rapid dissemination of ideas. I
Yeah.
mean, instantaneous. I think up something right now. I hit beep on my phone. It's in China. A second
Mm-hmm.
later. Whereas 100 years ago or 120 years ago, that would have taken months. Okay, and so memes, ideas are spread across the planet instantly, and I question developmentally and possibly evolutionarily whether we are equipped to handle
Could you elaborate a bit?
that. Well, sure. I think there's a basic overwhelm with this much information, um, and that exposing yourself to it day in day out um, has effects on our preconscious, on our visceral and preconscious beings within us that are unknown. Um, a writer by the name of Gaia Vince says that in one day today, a person experiences as much narrative input as someone in their entire life would have experienced in the Middle Ages.
Mm-hmm.
So in one day, we've got so much more stuff coming at us than perhaps 10, 20 generations ago. And so yet evolution doesn't work that fast.
Yeah.
How are we able to handle that? Our minds have plasticity. We certainly create what we would call new schemas to sort of, there's something that makes sense over there. I don't have to think about it. Social media is a thing that makes sense. It's right there. Um, but the underlying overwhelm that comes with the radical participation that most of us are doing in social media is something to be aware of and to be question. And I don't know the answer. I'm not saying someone needs to step in and regulate it. I'm saying we just need to
Mm-hmm.
think about our great inventions, and their dark sides.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I got into film and television is because I saw how powerful it was, and you can use it for good. There's a lot of people that create beautiful art projects and films
Yeah.
and television series that inspire, that educate. That's what we're trying to do with this podcast. Entertain, but also educate. And then, but you also see people use it for toxic drama. For
That's a
me, I
good way to
always
put it. Toxic drama.
toxic drama. I think the best example of something that is heartwarming is like comedy. And you've worked with a lot of comedians on the Arsenio Hall show, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that guy, and like just being in a room like that uplifts your spirit. You know,
Yes. Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
think like being in a stand-up comedy hall, listening to people make jokes and laughing all together, that's an elevating experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. That goes back to theater. It goes back to
Hmm.
what our ancestors participated in, the exchange of ideas. So comedians take current events, interpret them through a certain lens to make them funny, and share them with us through their words. You may be put off by some of them, or you may really
Hmm.
enjoy some of them. But by and large, I would say we're far more developed to handle that than social media. And I don't mean just bites from comedians. Okay, I mean whole 1 hour or 90-minute concert type things. A
Hmm.
whole thing. This is how this person views the world. They're sharing their ideas through words, which we then use cognitive energy to interpret, and if we like them, we like them. So yeah. One thing so funny. Most comedians, at least coming up, they write their own jokes. They spend time. I know early on, a long time ago, before he was famous, I worked just for a moment with Jerry Seinfeld, and
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't get to know him very well, but the people I was working with who did know him said this guy's he gets up early in the morning, spends the first few hours just writing jokes, and then tries to sort out which are the best ones in his show. Um, and that's what he loves to do, writing, reading, interpreting, and then narrating. Um, and and one thing that was kind of a little disappointing, some of the best comedians I've seen um, don't necessarily trust themselves to tell these. Sometimes, like you could see, if you want to watch Richard Pryor, who I never met,
Mm-hmm.
but Richard Pryor and other great comedians, Arsenio as well. I have an old friend, Larry Wilson, who's a comic magician. These guys are really good at improvising.
Mm-hmm.
They can just go into the audience and take stories and talk to people and and make you laugh. And I was always sort of disappointed to see people who have that capability rely on kind of stale written scripts. It's like, oh, come on, you can do that just by shooting from the hip. You're funnier than that. and
Mm-hmm.
and so so that's a wonderful skill that I think certain Robin Williams was brilliant at it. God, um,
Yeah.
Oh.
But
he yeah,
for the ones that improvise, I mean, there isn't much stability in that aspect
I
because
know, I know. They
you're
want structure.
yeah, like so maybe they can do it if they find the right flow. They just have to get into that. Basically, I like how when they say nowadays is like, oh, he's cooking. Like he's basic. The James
Right.
Harden meme thing is
He's hot.
he's
Right.
cooking.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, he's
Right.
hot.
Yeah.
So they need to start cooking. First they have to put the right ingredients and stuff. I like that reference. It's a nice one. Um, and it's sometimes because there's the emotional aspect of it all. Like they also have to be emotionally there and have the energy,
Yeah.
like
Yes.
what we talked about earlier. Um, for them to be able to cook, they have to have that aspect, like in the moment. But it's not
Yeah.
always there. So that's
No, I
why
mean, many
the
many
structure helps.
comedians suffer from depression. So I'm,
Yeah,
I'm guessing that engaging in sharing narratives that tickle everybody is a way of coping with depression for some people.
do you think it has to do with also rejection?
Well, yeah. I mean, again, there's behind anything that we can simply explain, there's 100 different systems. So I would not say universally that it's about rejection, but if you read biographies of many comedians, you see that they may have less than secure attachments to their caregivers at
Mm-hmm.
an early age for whatever reason, and or
Mm,
having been bullied, or maybe being in the shadow of somebody else in their family, and the way
yeah,
that they can get attention is by telling jokes. So I can get attention by telling jokes, and thereby not be kicked to the sidewalk, sidelined, made to feel invisible. If I tell jokes and make people laugh, that's a way that I can sort of be in the world where I'm not um, made to feel invalid.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think we all
Interesting.
go through trauma. I think that's something most all of us as human beings go through, right? I mean, especially the older we get, the more things we experience. Um, yeah. How do
But
how
I
do
mean,
you deal with it? And, what's the difference between because I wouldn't say I'm like mentally ill and stuff, but there are things that I would like to process from the past. Um, I don't think I'm like necessarily sad or diagnosable to go, talk to like a therapist and stuff like that. I, usually rely on my friends and,
sure,
making having good experiences or such. But what's your thought on that?
sure. Well,
Dealing
the
with trauma.
the last third of my book talks about different ways
Mm-hmm.
to approach this. And what you said is like the first thing. So the greatest, the best predictor for getting back on your feet after a trauma, for recovering from a trauma relatively successfully, the greatest predictor is uh, what social support or interpersonal support. People
Mm.
around you, a person or persons around you that are validating of you, okay, that say, you went through something awful. I may not have experienced that. I don't know what it is, but I'm standing next to you. I just want you to know I'm standing next to you. What you're feeling
Mm-hmm.
is valid. Okay. Um, um, or, as therapists, we tend to do that. We delve a little deeper. We want to actually hear what the person's explanation is and see if we can help them. So again, stand next to them, don't invalidate. See if you can gently show where something might be a distorted perception, because frequently when people come out of traumas, they have negative self stories, negative stories about others, that are out of balance, as you guys said earlier,
Yeah.
and that so the idea is to gently say, could this possibly be distorted? I understand. I'm with you. I stand next to you in these feelings, and of course, you have a right to feel these things. Is it bending your vision a little bit on these things? Um, so, the first thing regarding any kind of trauma, whether it's being bullied, a car accident, being in war, um, is to have a person or a group of people around you who can validate how you feel and say it's okay for you to feel this way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's a core. Then beyond that, there's many different ways to approach trauma recovery. I am trained in something called EMDR, eye movement
Mm-hmm.
desensitization and reprocessing,
Mm-hmm.
which I use with some frequency, but it's not for everybody. I'm not going to say one size fits all. I find it's good about 75, 80% of the time. I see either a drastic, quick, return to functioning, or at least some movement towards that using
Mm-hmm.
EMDR. But other people, um, there's a guy named Peter Levine came up with an intervention called somatic experiencing, which is what we were talking about earlier. What is your viscera informing you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And how, and so if there's trauma trapped in your muscles, guts, bones, because of the human cycle of our perseveration, we think things over and over. We go back to the past and relive over and over and over. And then when we project into the future, oh, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. So if this tends to trap things in our viscera, and Levine has a way, and the somatic experiencing practitioners have a way to release viscerally um, trapped trauma, and in a sense, they're taking a lesson from non-human mammals, because
Mm-hmm.
as we were talking about earlier, we have the gift, the blessing and curse of abstract thinking. Um,
Yeah.
most mammals, arguably, have far less of that. Okay. Now, I'm not going to say I know this to be a concrete fact, but I judge from their behavior that they don't have the complex language that we do. And I also see we have many, many instances when an animal is threatened, actually threatened, and maybe even the jaws is something that's going to kill it. If it escapes, if it survives, it doesn't remain traumatized. It shakes it off, um, and it may have a schema, a mental imprint on, okay, danger in that area, avoid that area, but it's not they don't have what I call I, me, mine consciousness. This was about me. This was to me personally. This is going to happen again to me, and this is because of something I did to put myself in the way. No,
I
no.
see.
It's just like danger, nurturance. Danger, nurturance. Which way do I turn? And there's no I. Which way is danger or nurturance? You know,
Yeah.
and so we can take a lesson from that viscerally. This is actually what the benefit of most meditations are. Although I don't know that people can put that into words. I meditations of various different kinds that can put you into the what is mode right now. So like what do I feel? What do I smell? What do I hear? It tends to come in through senses, right?
Yeah.
What's on the back of my eyes as I have them shut, and then I've taken it a step further to what, because I'm human, I have thoughts. What are my thoughts doing? I like to envision thoughts as tubes coming out of my head. Oh, there's the thought of where I'm worrying about my brother. Oh, there's the thought that I'm worrying about the stuff in the Middle East, right? There's the thought that says I've got to be someplace at 1:00, you know?
Yeah.
And that visualization of thoughts helps you stand back from them and just be with what is. So the idea, going back to the Levine intervention, which I'm not trained in, by the way, the idea that being with what is helps us get away from the cognitive loops that create the distortions in our mind and get in the way of our functioning. So there you go.
Okay.
That's pretty elaborate, Ken. You know, I loved when I was reading your book about how many traumas lead to different kinds of mental diagnoses. You know, kind
Yeah.
of the root of much of mental illness is partially stemming from the traumas we've experienced in life, and yeah, and I like that idea of visualizing the thought and then just tossing it out of there, getting like seeing it for what it is. It's so it's such a curse to be so intelligent.
Well, that's a nice story to tell ourselves.
I've spent, I feel like, a lot of my life I'm playing with ideas and trying to be smarter and more intelligent, but I've just come to realize that it's cool and all, but then I feel like maybe I've been lacking in other areas of my life, like I wish I could cook better recipes for myself, or I wish I could, really take care of my clothes maybe a bit better, or just something, or I wish I could unclog a toilet if it was clogged, it's like, I think that many of the things I've been teaching myself, like how to write or how to, be a great therapist and such like that, I feel like a lot of it's even getting automated with AI. I feel like those high cognitive skills that, my my parents were like, yeah, you need to get really smart.
Yeah.
But then now I feel like, okay, some of those jobs are being taken away, and I think that like the basic jobs of like unclogging a toilet, or setting up this dresser, building a shelf. I feel like I'm trying my best to get back into the hands-on skills, because those things Alexa can't fix.
Right.
Alexa can't fix my my broken oven. I
Damn
have
right.
to go in and
Gotta do it yourself,
that
bro.
myself. Yeah, exactly.
DIY.
Yeah, exactly.
DIY, right. Well, so I'll just comment on the way. So I hear you talking to yourself in a certain way, right?
Yes.
Saying, "I wish I could do this. I wish I could do that." Right? I wish I could fix the clogged toilet. I wish I could work
Change
on
the
this thing.
vocabulary, Ali. Don't say I wish.
No.
Say I can.
I want to compliment you on saying I wish, because so many people, where a major cognitive distortion that people engage in is I should, I need to, I should do this. I should be able to do this sets a goal of like, okay, I should. That's automatically comes with judgment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that if you're not able to, because not everybody is going to be good at clearing toilets, okay? If you're not able to, that's okay, right? I wish I could clear a clogged toilet. Is sets a want. I want to be able to do this. That's something I want to move towards, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't say I
Yeah.
should be able to do it. And so there's a subtle but very important difference with setting yourself up for failure as opposed to I'd like to be able to do this.
You're also setting a promise for yourself. That's what I noticed when I do it to my, like when I say these things to myself, I say I have to, or um and I write it down as well as a task to complete. So it's like, it's like a little side quest you get in a video game. You're just like, it's like right there, and you're just like, you have to complete it so you can give you an upgrade or something.
Right, right, right.
So you promise yourself these things, and obviously you can't always keep all your promises, but in the moment, if even if you don't complete the task and you promise yourself to do it, don't be hard on yourself.
Exactly.
You just go with it. You're like, even if you do a bit of it, like even if you complete half the task, look at that part, and you're like, okay, at least I did something. At least I made some progress. So the next time I'll just complete this. I'll be done.
No, that's exactly right. To what we call partializing a task. So I want to
Yeah.
change the transmission in my car. That's a pretty huge thing that many of us untrained as mechanics might fail at, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what would the first thing that you do to you know um, how would you partialize that? Well, first of all, if the transmission's out and it doesn't work, maybe I need a second car
Mm-hmm.
to make sure I can still get around. I mean, probably a bad example, but the idea of like I'm gonna chop up a cord of wood today. Um, that's a huge amount of wood. Uh, if I get 2 stacks done, that's a success. That's my objective for the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
As opposed to a huge ton of wood. Um, partialize the things that you're going after, just like you said.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And and also, let's say it's a big task, like you were talking about. That's using the transmission one, and most of us don't know how to change the transmission in our car. But if we're doing it ourselves, maybe the first task should be gaining information, gaining
Yeah,
knowledge on how to do it. You know, because then once you have knowledge, because like usually we're afraid of the unknown. Sorry, most people are afraid of the unknown, so they tend to not go delve into that area. All right, if it's unknown, then make it known. Like
Mm-hmm.
get educated, get informed
I
about
don't
it,
know side
and
about
then
that one. I
why
think
not?
if something has too much knowledge or too much, like knowing too much, So I feel like that I'm like that a bit. Like for example, my car engine lights on. I
Yeah.
googled it, and I got the scanner to get it, and I know how to do it, and I looked up the YouTube video.
Okay.
But to be honest with you, when it comes time for me to actually do it myself, I still haven't been able to do it, and I tried a few times.
okay.
I'm being completely
Well, you
honest
have to
with you.
combine. You have to combine the
Yeah,
two. The first one
I
is
have
the
the
information.
knowledge.
You have the
But that's
knowledge.
but
I
say
have
Makes
to
it
set
what
the
more
task.
handy.
what you said exactly right. The partializing the task of rebuilding your transmission is the first step would be enrolling in a place where I can learn how to do that. That would be the
Yeah,
first step.
it can be as simple as
To,
a YouTube video.
right. But also, Ali, I have to share with you. I've got a very similar situation. I've got an idiot driving my car. That it's about tire pressure, and I have done a
Mhm.
100 different things. So I say to myself, I want to get rid of this idiot light, right? And I do 100 different things. I got a tool to reset the tire pressure with a car, and it went go to. It's like ultimately it ain't going off. And it's like okay. the car runs great. I'm just going to live with this light on. And at some point or other, I'll let a professional look at it for me.
Hmm.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if the car isn't stopping, why should
Yeah,
you?
exactly. It's a
Hmm.
great little car. I zoom all over my region with it. And other than that stupid light, I've just
You're
said
right.
that's how I cope with it. It's just like, nothing's wrong with this car. I'm going to keep driving.
You're right. I shouldn't be so hard on myself. You know, that's a good point. What do you
Right,
think, Saeed?
I
right.
100% agree. And I think it's time, Ali. This has been a great podcast, Ken. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I
Before
really appreciate it.
Anytime,
I'm
man.
honored to have joined you
Um,
guys.
Before we sign out, is there anything you'd like to plug into the show? Let the audience know about.
Sure. Um, my book is called Stop Breaking Down: The Secret to Avoiding Overwhelming Crackup. You can find it, a direct link to it on my website, kentw.net, at the risk of engaging in crass self promotion. Um, uh, and, uh, and then beyond that, I would say, let's slow down. Let's slow down our thinking. Let's slow it
Hmm.
down and step back from our thoughts and
Hmm.
see where we are being trapped into concrete, rigid ways of thinking, where more flexible systems analyzing based of ways of thinking would be more helpful to us. Slow it down.
Slow it down. Well, thank you for that message as well. I think I'm gonna start asking all our guests to say something like
Hmm.
at the end of the show, like some a
Okay.
message to share. Um, anyway, this has been A to the show. Thank you guys for watching, and you guys
Woo.
know how we sign out. Peace.